afternoon. My name is Katrina Woelk, and I am graduating with a Bachelor of Arts, majoring in social science and minoring in biblical and theological studies. You should know that most of the social science portion of my degree consisted of psychology classes and peace and conflict transformation classes, and many of my electives included science classes. These areas of study have all influenced my degree and my time at CMU in different ways. This past week, I completed biochemistry. I took it at the University of Winnipeg due to timetable issues, but nonetheless, I'm going to show you a picture of one small thing that we spent maybe 5 minutes learning about. What you are looking at is something called F1 F0 ATP synthase. It is located on the inner membrane of the mitochondria in our cells. Briefly, and in its simplified form, it is located on a proton gradient, meaning that on one side of this membrane, the charge is more positive than the other side. This is crucial for the enzyme to work. The process involves protons getting pushed through the enzyme in order to equalize the charge. The movement of the protons causes the ATP synthase to spin, which then cause ADP and phosphate to come together to make ATP. ATP is a form of energy that each and every one of us needs in order to live. ATP synthase is like a little spinning factory, but it requires everything else around it to work. It cannot work solely on its own. Anyway, you may be asking, why is Katrina, who majored in social science, explaining an enzyme she learned in biochemistry? That's a great question. One reason is that I found myself to be fascinated by the intricacy of something so small yet so crucial to our bodies. Secondly, I see this as an analogy to my degree. I have experienced my degree to be complex in its variety of classes and to be interwoven with everything else I have been learning. I have realized the joy and the challenge of learning completely different things all at the same time. It has been fascinating to see the connections that come up between classes that may at first seem completely different from one another. One of my most memorable semesters was this past fall when I took 5 different classes but found them to work together well. I took a BTS class that discussed our consumption habits and the things we desire, 2 PAX classes including restorative justice and conflict and development in Indigenous communities, and as well as 2 psych classes that included trauma and resilience and leadership development. While I was learning to improve as a leader and examining my own personal strengths and weaknesses, I had the chance to dive into very challenging conversations about how to live as better neighbors and as people of God. I found myself asking questions such as, what is our role in being good neighbors to Indigenous people here in Canada? Especially when I now understand just a little bit more of the developmental challenges in Indigenous communities, and when I now understand just a little bit more about trauma and what happens when individuals or communities are lacking a support system. And with this question and this new knowledge in mind, how much of being a good neighbor actually indirectly or perhaps indirectly challenges my consumption habits and the desires I have for myself as a Canadian? When do I need to give up something that I desire in order to fulfill my role as a neighbor to many? These are not easy questions, and they often force me to recognize where I can improve and where I need to change. This semester was challenging, but it was one of the best because of the ways in which it pulled together the various aspects of my degree, weaving them together into a beautiful mess of ideas, challenges, and optimistic dreams that I'm continuing to grapple with. As ATP synthase is an enzyme that is complex in nature and requires other processes surrounding it to work in order to create ATP, so I have realized the importance of interdisciplinary learning. In learning about PACTs, I have seen the importance of understanding psychology. In learning about both of these, as well as taking science classes, I have seen the beauty of having my own faith, as well as my professor's faith involved in the learning process. And just as ATP synthase then sends ATP out to the many systems in our body, so I am looking forward to applying the variety of pieces of academic disciplines to different uses. I don't think I'm leaving CMU with a nicely packed box of knowledge, but I think I'll be surprised at the variety of ways that I can draw on my learnings from CMU. I am so thankful to have had the privilege of attending a school where profs are excited to draw on different areas of study in their teaching, and we as students are encouraged to think more broadly, to reach across the arbitrary lines that are drawn in the sand between academic disciplines. It has been a blessing to be here and to learn here, and I'm forever grateful for the opportunity. I look forward to the ways in which this interdisciplinary learning will carry on into future learning adventures. Thank you.